I was very ill in 2019.
Yes.
And what I've come away from that is that feeling exactly that there isn't anything more important for me in a day than to try to just be someone who's striving to be truthful and uh, helpful and to and kind and loving to myself and to other people. It's very I don't have the same values. I think my values have changed since I was ill. And I think it was a lesson uh, for me to become so ill that I realized that the same thing was that your husband said to your son is, we need to, all we need to be is working on being, uh, or what did Jung say? Carl Jung, he said something like, do the next right thing. So Barbara and I met in Sweden at lunch when Jordan and I were on tour. I just found she's a psychiatrist, so she's a thoughtful person, and I found she had lots to say, and I asked her if she'd come on my podcast. We had a conversation about thankfulness, about self-reflection, about a few other things, and it was a lot of fun, and I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Tammy.
Maybe you could just start out by just telling people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get right into the conversation.
I would love to. It's difficult because you are so used to everything, but I have been living in Sweden all my life. I'm a Swedish woman of 78, and I have born 5 children, and I've also a degree in medical science in Karolinska Institutet, and my specialties are psychiatry and general practice. And I live in the countryside in the middle of Sweden. I'm married since almost 50 years. My husband is a former veterinary, now he's retired. And we live in the countryside, and he helps me because I'm still working. I'm working a little more than half time, and I love my work.
You must love your work to still be doing it. Yes. What
Yes.
do you love about it? What brings you there every day?
I think it's like, since I now have been worked as a private consultant psychiatrist for almost 30 years, I know the facts, I know the medicines, I try to keep update, but there's no so much new stuff that I have to read about. But all people, all they are like great novels. And since I'm my own boss, I can take the time I think is needed to really listen.
Mm.
And then the world opens. It's like doors opening deeper and deeper the more I go on working, because I think I see more the older I am.
Yes, I wonder with that, you have people coming to you. How many people have listened to them? Maybe nobody. And so here they are, somebody's listening. What can you learn from that? And what can they learn from that?
Yes. I think we learn both. I'm so thankful to my patients. They are just so honest, because when you meet somebody in the doctor, psychiatrist, patient relationship, they are so, in a way, psychological and naked, not any shields, not any thing that hinders you to see all the difficulties in life. But since I think from my childhood, very, very gifted person, I had a very, very safe and loving family and upbringing. So I have this as a base, and then I see not all other people are so gifted. And that's all I think, oh, the thing that differs from me and the person I meet mostly are how many gifts we have got during our life before we met. But otherwise, we are just the same. And I think I realize that the more I'm getting older.
So I see. So when you meet someone, we can see the relationship between you and your client as being more aware of gifts, as you call them, of different ways of seeing, of different ways of experiencing life, of trust and of gratitude, and these things that are healthy ways to relate to people. And so we can share those experiences with each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And also, since many people, they don't feel any thankfulness for almost anything. Sometimes they don't want to live. The suicidal problems, there are there quite a lot. And then I have a great responsibility to meet them. I love Kierkegaard's he says, if one is truly to succeed in leading a person to a specific place, one must first and foremost take care to find him where he is and begin there. I love that, because that's the first adventure I have, to see when I meet the person. If I could help anyway, I have to know where is this fellow being of mine just now.
And then when you find out where they are, how do you decide where to go from there when you're in a session with someone?
I have no answer that is suiting for more than every individual, because I use my feeling. I thought of this because this was something very new for me, to have this conversation in a podcast. And so I started by listening. I have a big family, and one of my sons, he composes music. He's also engineer, making programs for music. And his last music I listened to most all day when I was in the sunshine. And then I thought, well, this is, in a way, he's using the tones, the music, to express feelings. When I meet a person, I listen for the music in their life. What kind of music? If it is a harsh one, a difficult one, and I use my heart. And then I decide during the journey, like, I have no ready concept, just listening.
And so I have to ask, because recently things have changed in psychiatry and in psychology. And there are, I don't know if this is the same in Sweden as it is in North America, but there are ideas now that are new, asking therapists to agree with uh, the people that come to them. If a person comes to them and they have a question about their own identity, you're not supposed to question them, or you're only supposed to accept where they are. But it seems to me that if you're just accepting who they are, so in North America, there's the idea that you can come to a therapist and you can say, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. So I was born a woman, but I feel like a man. And that you used to be able to listen to that and investigate it and find deeper understanding of that for that person, whoever they are, and however they're going to resolve the reason they came to see you. But now we're told, or the therapists are told, to just accept that that is correct. And so it seems funny to me that it's like me going to a mechanic. I have a flat tire on my car, and I come up and I say, I have a flat tire in my car, or the radio doesn't work, and that's it. And then they just say, well, then I guess you'll have no music, and not be investigated, because it's through the investigation that we find new understanding. And so what do you think of this idea of affirming what people say and then not being able to get to the bottom of it?
I wouldn't be able to work under those circumstances. I'm so happy because I'm not obliged. Nobody's telling me you have to take that patient or that patient. I had this question came up by the parents of a girl 2-3 years ago. And they were worried and they wanted to talk to me because one of them was already a patient of mine. And we discussed it, and they were very, very clever parents. So they had many discussions with the girl. I didn't meet her, but they found their way. And now she's a really, really happy woman, I know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
it was just during her teenage, and many of her friends had those thoughts. And I think many young girls have a period. But of course, everybody should have respect. And she got respect from her parents and had good contact with them.
Yes, and I think I have a friend too whose daughter at 12 years old, not very long ago, just last year, came home and said, Mom, I want to be known as a boy. And her mother knew that she had found these ideas at school. And so she spent more time with her daughter at that point, and gave her opportunities to speak to her so she could listen to her daughter. And the more attention she gave her daughter, the more calm she became, and realized eventually that her feeling of being uncomfortable at 12 had nothing to do with whether she was a boy or a girl, and that becoming a boy wasn't going to change the fact that she was still a teenager, that she was still going to feel uncomfortable, because it's an uncomfortable time of life to be, because there's so many changes. There's hormonal changes, physical changes, psychological changes. It's a powerful time that I don't even think we can imagine, especially a girl, what a girl goes through when she starts to have her menses. This is a transformation from being a child with virtually no difference between girls and boys to all of a sudden becoming a woman at such a young age. And in our society, it feels like such a young age. And it's no wonder that it's confusing, but to listen, for a parent to listen and to investigate, and so that there's trust involved, right? These are things that we need in our homes, even before we go to a therapist. And it sounds like your client had a very loving home, and
Yes.
and not fearful parents, but trusting parents, and brave parents to
Yes.
listen, right? We have to be brave with each other, and not afraid. Yeah. Yeah, so that's very interesting. So how would you say, uh, let's talk a little bit about self-reflection, because you said that that's one of the things that interests you, and I imagine that's maybe what you see in your clients is self-reflection. And
Yes.
what do they find through self-reflection?
I think I will start with telling you about this was a boy in his 20s. He had a psychosis, and when he had some medication, because this is really a kind of brain dysfunction, could be. And when he was okay again, he said, "Oh, I didn't know that the brain also is an organ in the body." And of course, this is a kind of self-reflection. Even if you have had a psychosis, you have to have the support really to reflect. I have a kind of handicap, and how can I handle it? I have to handle it in a way where I can get help from the psychiatrists and from the nurses. They are doing a wonderful job during their staying in hospital and then afterwards, really. But I meet also not this really difficult problems. I meet more like anxiety, depression. And then in the beginning, I always start by listening and listening in what way they themselves think about how they feel, and if they can see what is their situation, what could be combined, and reflect. And self-reflection, the to have this gift to do that, perhaps you could practice and see there are so many possibilities. And I think also this is not my specialty, but I think cognitive behavioral therapy, I think the psychologists there used to help people to see, how did I think, how could I think, what alternatives did I have? And so they can like make a puzzle and put the pieces together. And then I think the good thing is, then you can take responsibility of your choices. So self-reflection is a base to really then take responsibility. So then, because I'm working just alone in my reception psychiatric work, I have no other than my husband. He's serving me a lot, you know.
Yes, and I wonder, when people come to you, they have an hour or so, right? That's the time that they spend with you. And different psychiatrists, I imagine, have different approaches in that hour. So you say that they talk and you listen mostly. So in a way that this is like a psychotherapy, yes?
I think it should be always when the doctor being responsible listenings. It should be a kind of interaction that is. I remember long ago I had a referral from another general practitioner. He said, "Oh, this lady, she is also a doctor. She has a suicidal, really difficult problems, and please help me." And the first time she came, I just listened for 1 hour, 2 hours, as long as she wanted to talk. And then I put it, what I could see together for her a little. And then after a month, she still didn't want to live really, but she said, "Oh, now I will, at least I will try." She promised me to live 1 week at a time till next time we met. And then she said, after 1 or 2 months, there are many years ago, I think 10, 15 years ago, but I remember it so clearly. She said, "You see, when you listened to me and I left your place the first time, I remember I thought, oh, perhaps I have some worth at all, because how could otherwise somebody listen to me for 3 hours?" And of course she was tired, but I knew it was an important meeting, and since I'm private, I can take my time. I don't need the money in that way, you know. I can say I would rather have a meaningful work than doing it like or mostly you have to do if you work in a social environment with other people. So I made my concept my own in a way, but still I'm very aware of the license. The society has, because all works that are licensed, we have a very, very great responsibility. And so I have the contact with them, representatives from the society, and they have a little check with my work some years ago. And after this check, this man, he was out here. I mostly work outside in the countryside. You can't see the green outside now because the sun would make it difficult, but otherwise we could sit outside here in the garden, just outside, or go for a walk. And this is another way to work than in the city. And this man, he came out to check everything was okay. He said, "Oh, I just had one little thing you could think of, writing the journal that way. I didn't understand your formulation that one. That was not your day." He said, "No, all days couldn't be top days." But then he added, "But I can see you work with great love for your human fellow beings." And then I was really, really happy, because that's what I want. And I tried to create it just that it will suit everybody. Some people want to walk because then they feel it's comfortable and we have a little path up in the forest. Others want to sit.
Yeah, I like to walk. If I'm thinking, I like to walk. And I wonder, I know that there's not so much church in Sweden, but I wonder whether your the way that you approach your sessions, do you find that they are, and with nature, it sounds very spiritual, to me.
I'm
Would you
glad
say that? Yeah.
I'm glad you comment like that, because I think many people here in Sweden, they feel the nature is quite their way to find peace and calmness, and that's why mostly they chose to come here. And perhaps you can see I have an instrument here.
I see that. I'm curious
it's an
about
old
that.
Swedish instrument, nyckelharpa. It's a kind of key violin. It's really typical Swedish instrument, and I like it because it reminds me about my boy playing mostly piano, but also he plays nyckelharpa.
Do you play that too?
I play the violin. I used to play violin. I thought perhaps I should be working as a violinist when I was young. Played lots of, but then I chose to be a doctor. But this music, I think it's like music. When I prepared, because I really felt a little tense to meet you. It's so new. And I thought, how could I prepare myself to really be myself? And then I thought I would listen to music. And I listened to my son's music because it gives me so much, because I know what he feels when he composes it. So all morning I was outside in the garden, listened to the music. I loop the ones I love he makes. And like the music brings people together. I think if you listen in a certain way after certain tones, you can find what kind of music is the music for this person. And I have the feeling of who is a seeker, who is a spiritual seeker in the bottom of the psychiatry problems. I can feel it. And then I try to ask questions about their values in life, what they want, what dreams they have, to realize a little about the direction they want to have in their life. And that's the way I use my heart mostly. And to work, I have to have these facts and all this other knowledge, but I don't think I would still working if I hadn't had the opportunity to make it my own. Like an artist, you're artist. You use the colors, you choose the colors, and you have this screen you paint on, but you choose. And so I think that's with me. And I think my son, he uses the music as his expression. I try to use my words. And now I have just a new instrument. This the English speaking. It's like, it's like changing instrument. It's really, really hard, because the words, they don't come as you want them to.
I worked in Quebec for a while when I was in my 20s, and I worked as a massage therapist in a shop where they were selling cosmetics and perfume. And I would work in the back and give massages to French people. And mostly I would just nod because I didn't understand very much French. They thought I was a very good listener. But over time, now and then I'd have to work in the store. And I could understand French. It was a struggle. I could do it. I had some training in it. But I would come home at the end of the day with a headache because of straining so hard to understand. So yes, it's very difficult to learn to be into a new language.
Yes.
And and I think you're doing very well. I think that your English is just fine. I can imagine that in Swedish you're more fluent, but I would say that you're doing just. How long have you been speaking English for?
I learned at school, but I have stayed in Sweden because of my 5 kids and work and farm. We're living a farm, and I think I usually now have this passive vocabulary. I don't speak so much, and I asked my family now for 3 days before I'm talking to Tammy. Now you're allowed only English speaking with your mom. So on WhatsApp, on telephone, even from Turkey, where my daughter lives, we are quite an international family. Everybody had to speak English
Well,
with me.
thank you to all Barbro's children for allowing you to practice.
And then I met an Englishman. He was really born in England. And I asked him a week ago, perhaps I could come and visit you and sit and talk some English. He looked at me and said, oh, no, it's too late. You just be yourself and go on speaking.
That sounds like an Englishman.
And it's a little confusing because our daughter, 20 years ago, she married a man from Turkey. So she lives in Istanbul. And I wanted to be able to talk to my grandchildren. So I went to the university in Stockholm for half a year, getting the grammar. The Turkish grammar is quite difficult. So I have different parts in my brain, you know.
Yeah.
They have been here all summer now. That's why I couldn't talk to you before, because we were 14, 15 people around.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes, just before I left, because Jordan and I are now going on tour again. We're going back to Western Europe, mostly to the UK. And the night before we left, I had my niece in the basement with her husband and 2 children. Children only 11 months and 3 years old. And then a very good friend on the 3rd floor, sleeping on the 3rd floor. And I thought how nice it was to have a house full of people. But that was only for one day. You had that for the whole summer.
Yes. But I decided to practice being the older generation, and the younger is quite good taking care of themselves. And my daughter is just wonderful. And
that's a good thing to know, isn't it? It's a good thing to think that they are, to remember when we were that age and how we were in the middle of it, and we were taking the best care that we could, and that's what our children are doing too. They're taking the best care, they're taking what's necessary. They have what's necessary. They can do it. We can just benefit from the abundance of family.
Yes. And everybody has, our smallest grandchild is 10 months now. And that's my youngest son. He checked with me this afternoon. Oh, is everything, the technical parts? He's also an engineer, lives in Stockholm. Is everything okay, Mom? And they helped me with everything. And,
that's nice.
And the mother of the child is a Russian woman, really living now in Swedish membership, and the extended Russian family was also here this summer. It's really to learn to know them. And my son playing music, his love since 20 years is from Japan. So there's so many windows out to the world.
Yes, that's right. Well, there was some research done recently on the economic worth of a child. And, you know, because there's a more of a negative rhetoric about children being taking from the world, but that's just not true. Marion Tupy, who runs something called humanprogress.org, he did some research and he discovered that for every child born, it increases their economic value by seven times. And so if you have 5 children times 7, that's 35 times. And so it's having a family is an expansive endeavor. It brings more life. It brings more opportunity. It brings more love. It brings more of everything. And it's not a negative. It's a positive, and it's a 5 times, 7 times positive.
Yes, but it also gives you a very great responsibility too.
Yes.
For example, 2 of my children passed away at the age of 40.
I'm sorry to hear that.
One had leukemia and one had a brain tumor.
Both at 40?
Yes, 40. And the oldest, he had 3 children, one of 13 years old and one of 2 and one of 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
When he passed away. And these 3 children, their mother lives just close to us, 2 kilometers from us. And so I'm so rich having his wife, and now the children are 18, 20, and 29, and wonderful, and they manage in life. But of course, I have these 7 grandchildren. There's a very rich, but if you have children, you have to know all the sorrows in life. Mostly I don't tell other people about what happened, because I knew when this hadn't happened in my life, I could feel a kind of heavy, difficult feeling meeting a person losing a child. And now our family has lost 2. It's difficult because I want to spare other people feeling these catastrophes can happen to anybody. No, you have no guarantees. You can't take anything for granted in life, really.
That's right. You know, as a young woman, when I was very young, really, you know, high school age, I dreamed, I'm going to marry someone and we will have a happy life. You know, a very simple and immature philosophy I held at the beginning. And that's not a way to live. So in me being married and having children, the tapestry of life is it's varied. It's varied from one end to the other, you know, and you can't really experience that without putting yourself all in, right? And having children and realizing that in bringing that life into the world is you give that life to the world, and you have no say on what's going to happen. You're only here to be there in the best way that you can and support. But to truly experience a loss of love and life like that, there's no other way to find the realities of life without having a family. I don't think so. I mean, I've lost dogs and I found that more difficult than I thought I would. So you can find those feelings other ways, but I mean, look at, you have grandchildren, you have a daughter-in-law, and they live there, and with the memory of your son, and so that keeps his memory alive. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's tragedy, but it's beauty at the same time, or at least that's how I see it.
Yes, I think it's yeah. I used to read a lot, and I have this poem I like them. Love is the whole thing. We are only pieces.
Mm.
I think because children is love, and result of love, and like seeing this, we are only pieces. I still have all my 5 children in my heart. They live, they are so alive in me, and I'm so thankful for the years we had. So it's kind of, it's difficult to explain, but I'm at the same time, I'm so happy being alive.
Well, we're talking about thankfulness now, then.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about thankfulness, about gratitude. And let's talk about that a little bit. Let's investigate the necessity for that in life, and what it can bring to us and help us with, to hold those things close. Thankfulness and gratitude. Yeah.
I think it's being alive. I thought of it this morning when I listened to this music. I knew he was very happy when he made it. He just composes sitting at the piano, and then the fingers just goes from his heart to his fingers. And sometimes I ask, can you play that again? No, it's gone. But I have my iPhone, I record it. And now I've really asked him to make some microphones, and he has bought a piano. He's just a little flat in Stockholm, but he still, now he was anxious about the neighbors being disturbed, and now he has this piano and records, and he sends the recordings, and that is his way to be alive, to say thank you for life. I can feel in the tones when they come into my ears. And so gratefulness and thankfulness, I think it's life. And that's why.
And what happens if you don't? If he didn't have the piano, and he wasn't putting out this music, expressing himself that way, what do you think would happen? And I don't mean necessarily for your son, but I just mean if someone has a creative impulse, but if you deny that creative impulse, what do you think is the consequence of that?
I think emptiness, in a way.
Emptiness. I wonder if it comes out in different ways.
Yes.
You know, things that aren't expressed, they have to come out some way. And the beauty of music is a positive way, but there are other ways it can come out. And I don't know, everyone would be different, but I think I've been thinking of that about myself, you know, because I have a creative impulse, and if I don't, if I'm not, if I'm not humble enough to express what it is I have a need to express, then I think for myself, it comes out as a feeling of, oh, I don't know, being not enough, or being hard done by, you know, being troubled and blaming other people. And, you know, if I don't do what I need to do creatively, it's going to come out some other way, I think, and not in a good way. That's what I think.
Yes, I'm listening. Very interesting, because this question, I haven't had that before, but since you're an artist, and you know, I haven't asked my son, but I know when he was a little, I think he started playing the piano, you know, when you just have the can reach it. And when he was 6, 7, he asked, Mom, what do you think? How would the piano feel if it couldn't play? And it's
oh, really?
And I think it's the same question you asked me. I think I will put it here in my heart, because this is the question for all artists. But
it
perhaps all of us have different kinds of creative capacity. We have to find it, like finding the treasure. What's my way to express myself?
I was living with a woman. It was just after I'd finished my university. I was alone, and I went and stayed with her and her 7-year-old son for a few months. And my friend said, I'm not creative at all. I don't have any creativity. I said, oh, I don't know about that. I said, maybe you just haven't found what you like to do yet. And eventually she started to design and make quilts. And she's made lots and lots of quilts, and they're beautiful quilts. And she found something. She found something that she loved to do. And those creative, when I draw, mostly when I draw, but when I paint, it's almost I don't know, it's almost like a meditation. It can become a meditation. And I think that maybe creative people need more meditation than people who aren't so creative, or maybe people who aren't creative, say someone who's mathematical and who's just very interested in order and making things orderly and creating order out of chaos. And so they like doing those sorts of things. A cleaning lady, someone who's just doing a practical job, an accountant, figuring out the numbers and making them add up and all of that. But then there's a creative person who has a creative impulse. That's finding something from your heart and bringing it out into the world. And that impulse, that's a very strange and different kind of impulse. And I think it has to be taken into consideration. It's a integral part of who I am. And if I don't pay attention to it, it'll bite me. That's what it'll do. It'll say, pay attention to me. I'm here and I'm important. Pay attention to me.
Self-reflection and self-awareness. Yes.
Yes, that's right. Really. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we are created as creators in a way, I think.
Yeah.
And we have to everybody has to find his or hers way.
Yeah, well, Jordan talks about meaning, doesn't he? He has said that people have to find their own meaning.
Yes.
And everybody has their own bit of creation to make in their lifetime.
Yes.
And we have to look for what that is, because, well, I think that that's the essence of life, is that we are here to find a way to bring something good out of an impulse to do such a thing.
Yes.
That's remarkable?
Yes.
Remarkable. It's a creation. They say energy is not created or destroyed. It's there. And it does feel that way. It feels like there's an energy there that has to be actualized in a material way.
Yes, I think this is so important. And it's not, we have so many things we should do, perform that and that and that. And I think of that boy, he passed away 2019, but the years before, he couldn't work. He had this brain tumor, and since he couldn't perform, we went away to see the relatives, the cousins, and a great party. And then he went to my husband and asked, "Oh, Dad, what do you think I could answer when they ask, what do you do nowadays?" The questions always coming. And then my husband told him, "Just tell them I'm trying to be good human being trying to grow.
Yes, and I would say that, you know, I was very ill in 2019.
Yes.
And what I've come away from that is that feeling exactly, that there isn't anything more important for me in a day than to try to just be someone who's striving to be truthful and helpful and to and kind and loving to myself and to other people. You know, it's very, I don't have the same values. I think my values have changed since I was ill. And I think it was a lesson for me to become so ill that I realized that the same thing was that your husband said to your son is, you know, we need to, all we need to be is working on being, or what did Jung say? Carl Jung, he said something like, do the next right thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and it sounds simple.
I'm so thankful to you, Tammy. I followed you since you came out on your podcast, and I've listened to your podcasts. I enjoy them, and I like them so much. And the reason really why we sit here, that's you, because I had a friend, and we had a discussion last summer. We sat beside the seaside and had a nice time. And I told her about you, about your podcast, about this happening, what you told to so many. And I asked her, don't you think you should listen to Tammy's podcast? And so she listened. And then suddenly, a couple of months ago, I had a phone call from her. She was invited to have lunch in Gothenburg, and we live quite a bit from there. And she said, I have some difficulties, but you go, Barbro. You told me about Tammy and yours.
Oh.
So that's why I came to Gothenburg.
I didn't know that.
That's thanks to you, Tammy.
Oh, so that's why we had lunch together.
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's very cool.
That's why I came to this lunch. I didn't know. I just, when she phoned me, it was COVID still, so I could have video consultations. And I saw she was the one phoning, so I just paused for a couple of seconds, and I said, can I phone you? Yes, but I just want to ask you, do you want to have lunch with Tammy and Jordan tomorrow? Yes, I said, whoa. And then I went on with my consulting.
So it was the next day. It was just the next day.
So and then I had to present myself. It was, you know, all this safety stuff we have to they had to check. So we had an interesting evening.
I didn't know they had to check a bunch of stuff. So there was all these questions that you had to answer?
Yes, who am I? And present myself and so on. But that's okay.
Dear.
I took a piece of this piece from the paper when I had about your husband. And yes. I said, if I send them, they know I'm okay. I'm not going to hurt anybody.
Yeah, when did you write so you wrote an article about Jordan?
No, I didn't. But I thought many people, if they say bad things about him, I say, you haven't listened to him. He's a really, really thinking person, and you should listen to the biblical stories. It's so interesting, a new way of focusing on the biblical the stories. And so when they wrote a really nasty part in the paper 3 years ago, I think it was. And since I had listened to Jordan and his biblical stories, I said, oh, I never wrote to a paper making them, no, you should do better, have more research before writing like that. So I sat a whole Sunday and I sent this email to the head of the paper, and then I heard almost nothing. But after a year, there was a man, Adam Svanell. He phoned me and said, oh, you see, I want to have an interview with you. Oh, why then? And then he interviewed all Jordan's, because there are many other males. I was not the only male objecting. There were many, but I was the only woman. An old woman psychiatrist. I was not the typical, young man. So he came out here on my place. He took some photos and interviewed me about my thoughts about Jordan. And why I thought his message was important. And so that's why. And I thought now in Gothenburg, if they can read this, I was just a tiny little part of his article, just. But anyhow, I am not used to being interviewed like that either, not on podcast either. I'm just going around in my private sphere here otherwise.
Yes, you are, but you're also paying attention.
Yes.
Paying attention. And that's what we're called to do, isn't it? Is to pay attention.
Yes, life will be more adventurous then.
Yes. Yes, that's part of doing the next right thing, is to pay attention and to see what is the next right thing.
Yes.
And that's what you did. Yeah. I had such a good time at lunch that day. It was really fun. And I hope we can come back to Sweden. I'm sure we will.
And it was so good to see you on the stage. It was the first time. I never went to see Jordan. I just listened to his on the internet. But seeing you on the stage, it made the impression so whole and come together.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's really you're important, Tammy.
Well, it's up to us to believe that, even if we don't feel it, to believe that we are important and that we have something to add to it. And that's another thing that I learned from being ill too, is that it was up to me to do my part. And so I'm doing my part. I traveled with Jordan all through 2018, and I sat in the audience. I didn't say anything. If people wanted to talk to me, I talked to them and was grateful for it. But I never put myself out there as someone to be recognized or anything. And now I have a podcast and I go on stage with Jordan. And last week I was walking down the street and someone recognized me. And it was actually very nice because he wanted to say hello and he wanted to say thank you.
Oh, there we have this thank you again.
Yes, and there's the thank you again. And it's how nice that he was given that opportunity to say thank you. And so I'm grateful that I'm listening to what my prayers, because my prayer when I was ill was that I said, God, if you let me live, I promise that I'll share with people what I know. I'll just share with people. And so what I'm doing now is totally different from what I was doing. I wasn't talking to anybody on a podcast either. And didn't expect to. And I'm still only new at it. I haven't done it very many times.
But how many new openings you are brave, really. Go into the new, really.
It's fun. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then maybe that's part of being creative too, is to be open to doing something new and not being too afraid. To have faith, right? To have faith. When I go out on stage, before I go out on stage, I squat down, have a prayer, I pray to God, and I ask God for courage and strength, and then I go out on stage. And so then I'm not afraid. And so afterwards, sometimes people will say, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't go out on stage." And I say, "Oh, yeah, you could. You just ask God for courage and strength." And it seems to work. So,
yes, it really does. I can see that, Tammy. It's
yeah.
so nice to see you like a flower showing its color. Yes,
Yes.
really.
And that's the idea. That is the idea, because I know that I know now, I don't know why, but I feel I know I have a presence of God in my life. And so it's up to me. It's my responsibility to shine forth,
Yes.
right? And I would say I wasn't aware of that for many, many years, but I'm definitely aware of that now. And I try to keep that in my mind. I try to keep that. It's important. And I lived with a psychologist for so many years. I should improve, right? I should know more about myself than I did before.
Oh, but you're an artist and you are a woman and you see it I like your humble way to express yourself, really, really.
Thank you. Well, I know that I don't have anything special to add except for what comes when I speak with you.
Oh,
It's just what happens when I speak with you. I have a question, I can ask it, and that's good. That's enough. That's enough for all of us, is
yes,
to just be there and do the next right thing.
yes,
Yeah. So I think that's probably a good place to stop.
yeah,
I don't want to keep you forever. And but thank you so much for speaking with me. And when we come to Sweden again, we'll have to have lunch again.
yes. I would
Yes.
love to. And
Yes.
thanks, Tammy. I know they say in a podcast, thanks for having me. That sounds
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah, well, it's a funny thing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. And now we're going to listen to a song that was written and performed by Barbro's son. She used this song in a loop to prepare to speak to me in English. So enjoy.